Let me tell you about Hellbilly Deluxe, 13 Tales of Cadaverous Cavorting inside the Spookshow International.
In the wake of the split of his hugely successful rock band White Zombie, shock metal icon Rob Zombie wasted no time in working on music as a solo artist. Having started this album prior to the group's disbandment, Rob was joined by frequent Trent Reznor collaborator Charlie Clouser, who helped him fine-tune a sound to let him stand out from what got him exposure in the first place, while also doubling down on the horror-inspired atmospheres that coded the White Zombie discography. After Clouser's departure, and with further help from producer Scott Humphrey, they were able to make something incredibly memorable and full of gothic horror grandiose that catapulted Rob Zombie into a new era of success with the dark and macabre that felt more in line with Rob's aesthetic and passions outside of music. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the late 90s breakout solo success that threw Rob Zombie further down the electronic-infused, industrial-tinged slope that is Hellbilly Deluxe. 13 Tales of the Cadaverous Cavorting inside the Spookshow International, or just Hellbilly Deluxe for short.
Rob was truly on some other shit with this record, because even from second one, you can tell that he's just doubling down on the super macabre horror aesthetic that was, again, in parts of White Zombie, but not nearly as much of the forefront as it is all throughout Hellbilly Deluxe. I mean, having Sherry Moon Zombie read the opening in this like kind of creepy little girl's voice really sets the tone, as does the haunting sounds that are produced that sound like they're ripped straight out of a B horror film from like the 60s. There's a lot of heart that went into the production and the sounds on this record that I do really feel like he never really capitalizes in the same way as he does here, even on Hellbilly Deluxe 2, which is a solid sequel to this. But I mean, the shit that he samples on here, I have a list of the songs, or of the movies that he samples all throughout this, and it's all like really old 70s and 60s horror films. There's a lot of horror embedded into this, and that's why I wanted to talk about it on this segment, because I feel like it is an essential Halloween listen. While I don't necessarily think it's a best of all time classic, it's definitely at least an 8 out of 10 and has a lot of really good songs on here that cemented Rob Zombie as a fantastic hook writer who could craft some heavy ass shit. You know, fucking Super Beast with its foreboding guitar that explodes right after Call of the Zombie continues the momentum and continues to cement the aesthetic that this album is going for. But not only that, fucking Dragula, Demonoid Phenomenon, Meet the Creeper, Spookshow Baby all have these thunderous, really jagged guitars that feel much beefier than anything White Zombie did. While I love White Zombie, and I think that they've made some fantastic fucking records, especially their last two records are so very, very good. The production on this just feels, you can tell he's working with dudes that get industrial sounds. You know, you can tell dudes that work with 9 Inch Nails worked on this project because the guitars are so much beefier. The drums and electronics have a huge presence, and the percussion is very thunderous throughout this entire thing. But not only that, you can tell Rob really wanted to incorporate a lot of horror elements, not just outside of those sample works, but a lot of the interludes like Perversion 99, What Lurks on Channel X, The Closer, The Beginning of the End, all have this very spooky aesthetic to it. Perversion 99 straight up sounds like something that's proto 28 Days Later in its soundscape. It almost sounds like the song that's at the end of Resident Evil 1, the song that plays at the end of that movie. In the beginning of the end has just these really loud, noisy electronics that, while having presence on the record itself, feel even more crushing without Rob's voice kind of growling and whispering over them in these creepy attires. You know, and it's not even just calls to genuine horror. You know, Dragula, named after the Munsters car. You know, there's a lot, again, horror in general, Halloween, spooky season, is a big thread of this record. And, you know, even the tracks I don't like Living Dead Girl, I'm gonna be real, I don't like Living Dead Girl. I think while I get why it's popular and I get what people see in it as a fan of that scene, I just personally have never liked the song. I don't like a lot of the songs when Rob dips into that style. You know, while I think that it's there on like Spookshow Baby, it's there to a lesser degree to me. But I mean, this record is just all around a really well-paced, spooky classic. Not even just the thumping dance stuff like Meet the Creeper and Dragula, which have just this constant head-bobbing rhythm that just gets you really in the mood to dance in a dark rave, all goths under the bridge style. You have Return of the Phantom Stranger, which is the real closer of the record, and presents this slicker groove that was seen on Living Dead Girl, but presented in a different facet. There's a lot to this record that I honestly really, really enjoy, and if there's any Rob Zombie album that I'm going to talk about for this segment, it's going to be this one, because this album really like I said in the intro, cemented his legacy. It let him stand apart from what made him famous to begin with, even if it so heavily felt tied to those roots still. And it helps that Rob is such a unique voice in this whole scene. You know, he's got this real bark to his voice that just sounds like he's a howling old man telling you tales of days and past. You know, he has a really sinister voice that cuts through these mixes like a fucking knife. You know, even if I don't think any of the records he's made after this meet up to this standard, there's still songs on it that feel very, you know, powerful because of his delivery and how he sells it. But this Hellbilly Deluxe 1, it's catchy. I mean, I haven't even talked about the hooks yet. There's hooks for days on this thing. You know, Super Beast, all the singles, Super Beast, Dragula, Living Dead Girl, but even like Demanoid Phenomenon, Meet the Creeper, Digging Deeper, yeah, yeah. Rob just melds hooks and earworms all throughout this thing. Guitar leads on here have this sinister edge to them, but they're also very fucking addictive. Same with some of the synth lines, like the opening to Dragula, the synth line on Perversion 99. It's a really haunting melody that has like horror synth influences, but it has a catchiness to it, and I feel like that was a big point that Rob Zombie wanted to make with this record. Is he wants to make it spooky, he wants to make it heavy, but he also really wants to make it catchy and make it stick out. You know, because while he kind of helped kick off a scene with your Static X's and Power Man 5000s, industrial wasn't new by this point in music. You know, Nine Inch Nails was a big thing. Marilyn Manson was all over the fucking place. You know, there were artists that were out around this time that made this type of music. Rob just put it in a very different, like, area of the industrial scene that brought in more dudes to help kind of cement it in its own direction. You know, I would even argue that bands like Fear Factory almost were kind of influenced by this era of industrial, and Rob was one of the forefront heads of that. You know, while some may say it's a dark age for the genre, it's a part of the genre that I really love. It's a part of the genre that I kind of grew up with. You know, I listened to a lot of Nine Inch Nails and even heavier stuff than that when I was a kid. But when I was like a teenager, I ate this shit up. I was a kid who liked doing goth shit. I liked the whole goth macabre look. I liked Halloween. I really admired what Rob Zombie did here, and obviously the legacy of this record, Dragula and Living Dead Girl, are pretty much Halloween staples. Everyone fucking loves those songs. Dragula was what got me into this record. It's in Jet Grind Radio, or the American release of Jet Set Radio. They have a remix of it that kind of loops a lot, but Dragula's been everywhere, as has Rob Zombie. You know, he's cropped up all throughout media, but a lot of this record was also used for the soundtrack of A Nightmare Creatures 2, which is where I got more exposure to it on the Dreamcast. Demanoid Phenomenon is the opening song to the game, and it sets the mood really well. It pairs well with gothic macabre imagery, which I don't think is true of all of Rob Zombie's material post this record, but everything here fits the Halloween aesthetic. Even tracks like Living Dead Girl, which feel like a little more like a romantic, sexy, spooky jam, it still has that horror twist to it, thanks to the sample work, thanks to the guitar line, and thanks to how well it fits amongst all of the other songs here. It's good. This album is fucking aces. If you don't listen to anything from here at least once during the Halloween season, you're honestly kind of fucking yourself, because it's a good spooky record for a spooky good time. Like I said, Rob Zombie's kind of a household name now, you know. I think it's thanks to this record and White Zombie, but especially him being able to stand out on his own with this record helped cement him as a household name. You know, if he didn't write Dragula, I don't think people would really know who he is. But he's a big name. Lots of directorial stuff. He still does solo music to this day. Rob Zombie's all over the fucking place, man. And I'm pretty sure, while again, White Zombie was very successful, I don't think they were nearly as successful as Hellbilly Deluxe was in its day. That's my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts on Hellbilly Deluxe. Do you like this record? Have you heard of this record? If not, listen to it. Like I said, give it at least one spin. I think you'll have a good time. It's a short, tight, little 30-minute listen. Has a little bit of spooky for everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support on here and on Patreon. I want to give a special thanks to my patrons. If you'd like to join their ranks, linked in the description is my Patreon. Feel free to join and help support the channel and help me continue to make better and better stuff. I have been Viral Rack. You guys have today's lives and situations. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you another day.